it's running a little late, and I've had a situation in my own personal business that dragged me to a little bit late, but better late than never. All right, let's get this meeting started. Ms. Mark, call the roll, please.
Mr. Christo?
Present.
Mr. Gittarelli?
Present.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Present.
Mr. Signor?
Present.
And Mr. Thomason is absent.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to start out by congratulating our candidate-elects that are in the room here today. Fought a good fight. And as it's been quoted by someone else in the past, the people have spoken, their vote is sovereign, and I wish everybody who's going to be governing moving forward the best of luck to all of them, and all of us who are still living. Having said that, can Mr. Spinelli lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there's no proclamations or presentations this evening. So, the main purpose of this meeting, of course, is a public hearing. Ms. Marco?
To hear comments by the public both in favor and against the town board's 2022 preliminary budget as compiled and vote for and against any items contained therein. The town board's 2022 preliminary budget shall be available for the public inspection in the office of the town clerk during the regular business hours and through the town auditing website www.rotterdamny.org around the clock beginning October 29, 2020.
And I would just like to say that above and beyond hearing comments this evening, we welcome the input of our supervisor-elect, Molly Collins, Mr. Dodson, and Mr. Mastriani in this entire process, as the reality is that this becomes your budget as much budget as it is ours, so your input is important. Having said that, Ms. Marco, who's
Stephen Spona?
Chief currently employed at the highway. Here speaking on behalf of Larry Memorial, who's currently unavailable this evening.
Do you want to come forward? That way we can get you on the camera. We don't have our microphone and podium because of, moving around. But come up. Come right up here by the pillar. That way.
pillar, there you go.
That way Ben can
She's
get
talking
you.
like she talks to her daughters.
I know.
I mean, I want them to present. I want everyone to hear what you have to say, just the same. I want everyone to hear what they have to say.
As you all are currently aware, the highway department is short-staffed. We're currently down employees due to retirement over the last year. We're currently staffed at 23. During the budget process, we asked for 29 employees. That is a minimum. After looking at the budget, currently you guys have reduced our budget by roughly $270,000 through different line items, none of them in which we're funding employees. You've eliminated our equipment lines. We had 2 of them. They got zeroed out to nothing. Our paving line is zeroed out to nothing. With that, also our overtime for our snow has been cut by $15,000. Our blacktop budget's been cut by $15,000. We currently are bare bones as it is at the highway. Our equipment is aged. We need updating. When you take it away, we don't have any money. We can't do any work. Services have to be cut to residents. As a board, we're hoping that you guys can consider at least staffing, helping us rebuild our budget and get the staffing in which we need to fulfill, currently we're down plow routes. There's a section of the town, as the last board meeting, Larry had a letter written, spoke, Diane read it to everybody. We currently can't fulfill all our plow routes to fulfill the town. With that, it's going to cost us more in overtime to plow our roads. We can't get work done with the staffing in which we have. So all I can ask is that you can, look for some funding to help the highway. Thank you.
Skip, can I ask you something as a
Yes.
resident?
Yes.
If after we collaborate with this board and the incoming board, as a resident, if the only way is, being that you're both a resident and an employee of the town, if the only way we were to get there was to blow the tax cap, how would you feel about that?
You gotta do what you gotta do. The tax cap is, I have my own opinion on that, but
Well, you know, I'd like you to share your opinion, if not here, somewhere else, because,
Yeah.
you know, we're gonna talk realities moving forward. Politics is done,
you
and
need to do what you gotta do. If it involves raising the tax, it's what has to be done to fund the town to be safe for residents, other residents. If it's involving, you know, a different tax bracket for different businesses, different things and throughout the town, that may have to be done.
I appreciate your honesty and your candor.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Thanks, Gary.
Diane?
Bob Godlewski.
Good evening.
Good evening.
During some of the discussions in the last couple of town board meetings, there was some issues raised about the homestead and non-homestead rates and, quote, a transition budget. I'm here to give you some facts, all right? Diane Markle and me, along with Steve Tomazon, is not here. We're part of that revow. And I can assure you, if you think you got paid now, let me go on. In February 2007, the town board unanimously voted for the two-tier system. The reason we did that, because the school districts wanted the town board to adopt the two-tier system. At that time, the initial review of the reval showed that the commercial portion would have been shifted to the residential. So they wanted to have a two-tier system. Example, Shellmont doesn't have as many small businesses. Mahoneson does. Well, Mahoneson did not go for a two-tier system, all right? But Shellmont did. That's why we did that, okay? So a lot of people questioned it, and I'll be honest with you, 14 years later, and I'm gonna give you some facts, I don't know whether that was the right decision. In 2008, I was not on the board, Diane was not on the board. The board that was in office was unhappy with GAR and the reval that they did. They claimed there was all types of errors. All right, essentially what they did, they said GAR did perform under the contract. So the same year, they hired a new assessor, all right, to review the reval and the current assessment rules. And I know for a fact, many of the commercial assessments were raised. 2009, the town board hired an attorney by the name of Goldman to sue GAR. You might remember that, Steve, I don't know what you do, all right? The town board also hired Emiger out of Buffalo to review GAR's work. My memory serves me right, between the two of those individuals or firms, the town shelled out almost $100,000. Okay? Now, here comes 2010, new town board. I was on that new town board, okay? So we hadn't seen the Emiger report. It wasn't released. So we get the report. Emiger basically said that there were no gross errors with the reval. In other words, there were some transposing errors and arithmetic errors. So we dropped the lawsuit against GAR. So, I'm not going to mention the individual's name, a commercial business owner took the town to court over their assessment. A review was done by the Beebe Law Firm, I know you're all familiar with, on the facts of the case. I had the letter, but I am not going to show it to you, but I'm going to give you the date. There's a reason. The letter was dated March 13, 2010, to the town attorney Joe Liccardi. It gave a review of assessments for 2008, 2009, and 2010. The letter is stamped confidential. I'm sure Mr. Beebe, and it should be in the legal files in the town, Mr. Liccardi left everything there when he left. Bottom line, the applicant got his assessment reduced because a process was used called selective reassessment as a justification to raise the assessment. Read the letter. That's all right, I got just two short little things, because if I don't finish here, I'll finish on the privilege of the floor. So, in 2021, you approved the homestead ratio in August. I don't, the homestead, not homestead ratio?
Did you say 2021?
Yeah, yeah, you have to do that for the 2022 budget. The assessor has to give you that. In there, there was a huge tax shift. If you looked at it carefully, it showed you the 2008, what the numbers were, because that's the base year and what they are now. I did a little calculation, and you heard me say earlier, I don't know whether I made a good decision 14 years ago. Since 2008, the homestead rate has gone up 15%. And there's two businessmen sitting on the board. Whereas the non-homestead rate has gone up 57%. Since 2012, the town board has given significant assessment reductions to large commercial businesses. They can go to court to get these large reductions. That throws the tax burden, by the way the formula works, onto the small business owners in the town, and it's killing them. And if you go back, and I have all the records from every year, how that assessment has shifted. One last point. The supervisor made a comment about transition assessment. And I have here in my possession the Times Union article that was written March 31st, 2007. I'm only going to read a little bit of it. Rotterdam, property owners will feel the full impact of the new municipal assessment beginning in 2008. Town board members on Saturday rejected an 11th hour proposal to gradually phase in revaluation over 5 years. Board members voted 3-1 against the resolution to adopt the little-used tax law, the transition assessment. And here's the nice part. By the way, your brother voted with me and Diane, we voted no.
Was that a good thing?
Yeah, I think so. Supervisor Steve Thomasone, and I'm reading right from the article, abstained from voting, citing the lack of information he received from the state agency. And the point I'm making is I want the record to show he just didn't willy-nilly do things. And everything I just read you had a time constraint. We have like a month and a half to make these decisions, so I just wanted the record to show. I didn't make it up, because somebody likes to allude once in a while. It's fact, and thank you for your time.
Mr. Godlewski.
Thank you.
Since apparently we're having conversations, you mentioned that you were on the board when the two-tier system went into effect, and that
Yeah.
you are not sure you voted the right way.
Because if I had known, all right,
I mean, I'm not even getting to your reasoning so much as, do you see a path out of it? Because I think that's really where the issue is for us is there a path out of it that doesn't
Well,
disproportionately affect
the
homeowners?
problem is that you're gonna have to talk, you and the new board members, get the assessor in the room, because I heard the comment he made in a written letter, he wants another reval because we're now down to 95%. Maybe, and I'm saying maybe, if you do another reval, the state may allow you to go to a one-tier system. But right now, to my understanding, we can't get out of it.
But a revaluation doesn't necessarily change tax rates, it just changes the full market value of the
Right.
property that the tax rate is assessed on. So
Right.
the assessment, reassessment doesn't fix the disproportionate impact on homeowners if we change the two-tier system like
Believe me,
that.
I know how it works. All I'm saying to you is this. The only way you can get out of the two-tier system, my understanding, if you do another reval. If you don't do another complete townwide revab, you can't. So you're locked into a system that, and I know this for a fact because I compared the numbers, you can go there for the August homestead letter. It shows clearly that 5% of the tax burden has been shifted to the commercial businesses. If you know where to look in that document, and the assessor can tell you that. Like
Well,
I
and I
said,
100% agree with you, but it's also factoring in the decreased commercial base we have in town when we lost so many large commercial properties.
all right, now, I'm gonna give you a number, and it's in your budget. From last year to this year, $58 million reduction in commercial value. Where did it go?
I mean, it went with the Staples going empty, it went with the mall going empty.
That's only about 20
And
million.
you say that, you know, those
Listen,
properties.
I
Look,
did-
I've been a small claims assessment review hearing officer for 7 years of my 14-year legal career, so I totally understand what you're saying, and I totally think it's a problem.
It is.
I just don't see a path out of it that doesn't hurt our homeowners.
Well,
Maybe we should sit down offline and talk about it, but
Well, let me-
I
like I
agree
said,
with you.
talk to the assessor, that's why he gets paid the big bucks, I don't.
I mean, your assessor's not gonna do a full reval of the
You-
town either, it's gonna
Only
be,
if you allow him to.
I mean,
Only
Village
if
just
the
did theirs
board
with
allows
consultants,
it.
and how much did that cost them? They did it in-house with consultants, my
Listen.
father was an appraiser on the council to
I'm
do the
only
reviews.
telling you what I believe the option is. It's up to you and the new board to decide that. I can't make those decisions. I don't sit up there.
No, but your input is valued,
Well,
and
like
you
I
have the
said,
historical
if
experience
I
with
had
it.
known that, if I had known that if the commercial values dropped, that by default it would affect the rate on the commercial businesses proportionally to what their tax rate is, I would have had second thoughts. And I mean that. I know 14 years later, but I have been following it in most of the budgets, and I see that increase. And this year, it was way out of whack. I mean, it has never been that high.
It is, but that's because
I
we're at the
know.
lowest level of commercial occupancy that we've probably ever had in the history of this town.
I know, but occupancy isn't related to assessed value.
Oh, it absolutely is, because the
All I'm
value
saying
of a
is-
commercial property relates to what they can get for rent.
But when the assessor goes to assess a commercial property, those aren't the guidelines he uses, occupancy.
Oh, it absolutely
It's
is.
used.
Look at the reevaluation of Crossgates Mall and the lawsuits they went through. Rent is absolutely taken in.
Listen,
Maybe,
I can't help
Yeah.
that. But like I said,
Gotta lose it.
I
Well,
made my point.
I just want to clarify one more thing. This board has no legal mechanism to resolve or reduce an assessment that is not part of a tax certiorari before the court. We have only resolved cases that were already in court. I just want to clear that up, because you said that we reduced assessments and there is a mechanism for them to do
I
that. They were
understand.
already involved in
Right.
those mechanisms to do so.
Yes.
So I just want to be clear, there's no way for us to just reduce an assessment without it already
But
being
you
before the
have to
court.
vote on that reduction.
We do, we have to agree on the
But you
agreement and
vote on it
resolution
in
that's
the
before
open
the
forum,
court.
just like you did Viaport,
Right,
all right?
and if the fair market
Have you
value
ever
has
looked at the
changed.
assessor's change report? It's an eye opener. Thank you. Have a good night.
I agree, but
Jack Dawson, so Jack, you say both, do you need for now and then
There
for
was
the
a
floor?
second.
Okay.
Good evening, Jack Dodson, 1311 Cipriana Terrace. I do want to just get back, you hit the major one for me, is we need to reverse the trend in this town of losing the commercial property. That's part of where our problem is. I mean, if anything, and that's why I look at this, you look at the 27% or 22 or whatever this is we're continuing to discourage businesses to come to our town, and we need them. We need the balance between the homestead and the non-homestead. And that's something I know that we can do. We need to get on a program to bring them in here. I'm just gonna make some general comments about the budget. And again, I don't know if you guys have any answers for this, so I'm just gonna throw them out. The fund balance has always been key to me. I have been coming to budget meetings for some time now. I continue to ask the supervisor about our written fund balance policy. Why does a fund balance policy matter, or especially a written one? It's continuity from board to board. But more importantly, in my mind, is when the times are tough, like they are looking like in this budget, it provides some transparency to the public, again, to say, hey, if we have $7 million in our fund balance, okay, we know what it is. If it goes to 5, to 3 to 2, okay, or even something less than that, that there's triggers in there of board members, the community or something, someone saying, hey, where do we stop? Because
Stop the bleeding.
exactly. And we would not want to come into a budget like this one right now. I mean, I just looked at generally the numbers. I mean, I'm seeing fund balance appropriation transfers just in general and highway of 270,000. I know in previous years, those numbers were in the millions. So I look at it as, and I don't know anything behind the scenes of what you guys are looking at it, but it doesn't give me comfort knowing that, did we exhaust all our money and we really don't have any now? And we're only gonna find this out a year later? That bothers me. That's the transparency thing. And that's why I continue to ask what our written fund balance policy is, and we should have one. Moving on, the lease agreement. There's all this talk about the lease agreement. I've asked for it. I still haven't seen it. What I would want to say to the board is, if we're in trouble with our budget, I would not want to be reactionary and be jumping off and selling our assets to get into this short-term resolution to create a long-term problem for us. Because I think the town has been doing that too often, and for too long. And to me, it's just a kicking the can down the road. There's $700,000 in this budget to sell our property. And if that's the town hall and the police department, I asked that's a lot of money. If we need that money, are we doing it solely because we need the money? And we haven't looked at the bigger picture. The question was asked for the League of Women Voters. It was asked for our forum. Geez, is that a good idea or a bad idea? I still don't know. Have we, as a board, taken the time to study that? Are you really convinced that that's the way to go? I'll leave it at that. And before I leave that, is that subject to permissive referendum? If we go sell that property, okay, do the residents and the voters in this town get to vote for that sale? Is that subject to permissive referendum? I've been to the last several meetings. I think there's $500,000 in buying the property for the town park. Well, I know I've been an advocate for it. I think a lot of people in this town want it. Is it the time to be investing in that property, and is it too late? Do we already have it? The highway garage. This goes on for a long time now. Where does the property stand for the highway garage? Did we purchase it? It's a done deal? And what we're waiting, I know we're moving ahead on Salt Barn. Are we waiting because we don't have the money to build a building yet? And does that come into all this planning?
Salt shed was, I believe, a separate project from the building.
It is. I realize that.
But I'm saying, we weren't holding up the salt shed because
I know
of the
we
building.
need that back. Okay, so my question is, but we're holding up on the highway garage. And is there a plan in place? What's the schedule for implementation of the highway garage? I know we got all this going on, and maybe, we've been talking about highway garage, and when I'm talking about a highway garage, I'm talking in the 80s, okay? And here we are in the 90s, 2000. Are we in a predicament right now where I can see a highway garage again because we have no money? I'm just throwing that out there. Once again, we have a wastewater treatment plant upgrade being proposed. I will talk about it under privilege of the floor. So we're having problems. They're compounding now. Now we have a wastewater treatment plant. Are we under a consent right now to do a $16.5 million wastewater treatment plant upgrade? Or are we doing it because we're trying to encourage economic development in our town? Again, I look at us, we're going backwards again. We've had the whole discussion on paving. We don't have any money to do any paving in this budget. I just heard we may not even have drivers to drive our plow trucks. I look at that again as we're going backwards, and in times when we're good in this town, where we have money, we're not taking care of the necessities that we need to take care of, and they compound when things are bad. We just, as a town and town leaders, we need to resolve that. We need to get out of that vicious cycle. And lastly, I guess is, on behalf of the Rotterdam Business Association and businesses in the town of Rotterdam, I cannot stand up here and say that I'm in favor of that kind of tax increase on the businesses because it's anti-business in my mind. We need to encourage business to come to our town. And we're never gonna encourage or be competitive with other towns where we're asking for over a 20% tax increase on our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Mastriani?
Want to thank you guys. I know it's a lot of work running for office, and then being on the board, it's a great deal of commitment, and we're in a tough spot. It's going to require a lot of our efforts collectively throughout the community. And as I was campaigning, I always encourage people to reach out to their representatives and to be involved and to get involved. And it's great to have people speaking that are not getting paid or not appointed positions, and I hope we can all work together to try and figure out how to get through this budget and this next year. And to reiterate what Jack said, I stand strongly in favor of lowering the taxes or lowering the increase as much as possible, to try and attract business to a lot of the vacant property that we have, vacant commercial property that we have, and to be competitive with other areas, to take advantage of the commercial districts that we have. And it's going to be a challenge for you guys right now to look through the budget and figure out what needs to be cut, and it's going to be a challenge next year operating with those constraints. But I'm optimistic that I think we can do it. It'll put a stress and strain on things, but I believe we can find a way. And as someone who has a business in this area and in this town that is constantly confronted with curveballs and constraints, finding a way is a good thing. It can help strengthen our town operation here. So I'd like to read a letter too from Nadine Viscusi, president of Casa Visco. She writes, I am unable to make the town hall meeting tonight, but I wanted to have my opinion heard. Casa Visco is a business that has been a great contributor to the town of Rotterdam, not only in philanthropic endeavors, but as a contributor to the tax base as well. We are connected to the community and to leadership, but we are still running a small business and hope to remain at our current location. The initial proposed 27.4% increase is outlandish. I'm thoroughly opposed to such a steep increase. We already were hit with a 150% increase in our sewer taxes, and the repairs done to the road did nothing to alleviate the flooding every time it rains. Please let me know how I can stay informed of the meeting outcome and the town officials who are for such a burdensome increase on businesses in Rotterdam. Thank you, Nadine Viscusi.
Joe, if you'd like, you could give that to Diane. She
Yeah.
can get it into the record.
Yeah. We're all in this together, and again, appreciate your guys' efforts.
Mr. Mastriani, if I could ask the same question that Ms. Miller asked Mr. Stoda. What if it requires a breaking of the tax cap? Are you opposed to breaking of the tax cap?
What
Right
is
now,
the
the way the
tax
budget,
cap?
I'm sorry, I'll let you answer, and I apologize if I cut you off. Because right now, the way this budget is designed not to break the tax cap. And you can see just how lean it is. So the question then is your position, if we have to break the tax cap, break the tax cap? Or keep it underneath the tax cap, keep it so we're not breaking the tax cap?
My short answer would be keep it underneath the tax cap, but I don't understand what is the tax cap? The 27% increase, that seems like that exceeds, is there a cap on?
That's not the budget that's in front of you. That's not the budget that's in front of you. That was the supervisor's budget. Preliminary budget keeps under the tax cap. But again, you're talking a skeletal highway crew. You're talking, limiting resources. So it's basically, and again, something's going to have to give. No one wants to raise taxes. By the same token, the thing that we have to ask ourselves on a collaborative with the new and the old administration is, do we fudge the numbers to make it look good? Do we kick the can down the road, or give it a reset button now in order to put things right for our children and their future? And that's a question that we all need to discuss, okay? Paving, as Mr. Dodson said, we have a 10-year paving plan, which involves spending millions of dollars for paving, you know? And as we integrate, hopefully, you'll see that we're not on different pages when it comes to paving. You bring up some very good points about things like the fund balance. Thank you for that. You know, the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, that's an interesting conversation. And again, that's kind of your forte, so I'd be curious to pick your brain on that. But when we first got elected, Ms. Miller Herrera and I, we went down to the sewer plant. We got elected in 2016 or 2015. They haven't so much as changed the circuit breaker since 1994. So, you know, it's the fact that instead of spending a little bit every year, now we inherit this mess.
And Joe and I went down there, Joe, we went down there, they were still operating on stuff that was there from the 50s, right, Joe? All the stuff they had there.
That's my problem. Yeah, all that bad.
Exactly. But
Well,
again,
we have done upgrades the first year, 2018, I don't know if it was 2.5 million, but we spent quite a bit of money down there, and we're at the point we need to do some more upgrades. It'll increase capacity a little bit, but it will also replace the other parks that have been there for whatever, 70, 80 years.
and I think we can all agree, it's not only the tax number that keeps businesses out of the town of Rotterdam, it's the infrastructure. And infrastructure, which I gave the example at the last board meeting, where we had an opportunity in the 70s, like Wilton and Malta and all these other communities, and it became political. So moving on for the good of this 29,000 residents of this town, you know, we need to avoid that as a group. Anything else on the budget, Mr. Mastriani?
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mastriani, do you have any
Yes.
specific suggestions on things that you think should be cut? Because this is the budget that we as a board will inherit next year.
I
Your
don't,
suggestions are valued if you have specific lines that
Yeah.
you think can be adjusted.
I don't at this moment, no. But I'll share with you guys as I see things that I'm curious about, if that's okay.
I think we offered up, myself and Joe, at your leisure, to help with the transition.
Thank you.
Yeah, and everyone has offered that. We've all reached out to each other already. I mean, like Evan said, we're passing a budget that you guys are going to have to live with. And
We
we
want you
need
to be
your
part of
input
it.
on it, and we're going
And
to be
so-
upfront honest. This is the situation we're in. You know, it would be nice to have a ton of money so we didn't have to raise taxes. But there's been years, and maybe too many years, that taxes have not been raised and they should have been raised. So we're in a situation now, we want services over low taxes. You know, we're in a position, we can't have both. We can't have all the services we need and then fund them. That's where we are at right now. And like I said, we've had years of no tax increases, and maybe we should have had that. Like Bob said, in regard to the homestead and non-homestead, we look at that and say, okay, I don't know who worded something, are we gonna burden or put this on the residents? Well, more than anything with that, it kind of equalizes the taxes between the residents and the businesses. So right now, we're actually overburdening the businesses. Like Aideen said in her letter, she's already paying more.
And maybe
You know,
the
Evan,
solution is some
Mr.
sort-
Christo, he runs a business, he's paying a higher rate than the residents. So right now, this conversation's good. There's so many things that should have been discussed more in an open manner, but I think sometimes because of politics, things don't always go the way they should. Again, we've had good dialogue. I want to sit down with everyone that was newly elected. All of us want to do this and say, look, moving forward, we need to be on the same page. We want your input. You need our input moving in. We're willing to give it to you.
And we
So-
want you to be part of these hard decisions.
If you gentlemen are not pressed for time after this meeting, we can, sync our schedules up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are members of the Elks, that's what Joe and I are going after.
And maybe Jeff.
So, again, I don't know what your schedule is tonight, but if you want to stick around, we'll try to see what our schedules, can
Yeah.
report to Joe.
Yeah, we will definitely coordinate some meetings as we need to. We really.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That's it for public hearings.
Under public comment privilege of the floor, Diane. Oh, wait, let's go back to the public hearing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to close the public hearing. I'm going to adjourn the public hearing. I think it's important that we keep it open and we keep this dialogue going. And I'm sure my colleagues agree.
Yes.
Okay? So then we're going to declare this public hearing adjourned, not closed, and more on that later.
floor is Jack Dodson.
Again, Jack Dodson, 1311 Cipriano Terrace. You guys have a resolution in here for the WIA project, and that's for the wastewater treatment plant. Doing 7 of them now. The only reason I'm asking the question is to get a WIA grant, and I believe you guys probably are in decent shape. As you know, in a minimum, you need to have a bond resolution passed. Do you have an approved bond resolution for $16.5 million for that project? Okay, so when you read the application, these are minimums that you need, and we need a WIA grant for this wastewater treatment plant. So, got to have the bond resolution. Does the bond resolution need to be completed before the application goes in? It'd be great if it was, but if you're showing that you're on track with it, that's a good thing. I know Bart LaJuice is working on that design. Did the seeker done on that? The seeker, again, is a requirement of the application as well as SHPO. So I'm just hoping again that we're not doing this to show and that actually we're being sincere about the fact that we're submitting a WIA application for the wastewater treatment plant out there. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anyone else who might not have signed up interested in speaking under privilege of the floor? Anyone else interested in speaking under privilege of the floor? Anyone else interested in speaking under privilege of the floor? Okay, Ms. Marco, let's get into the resolutions.
A resolution to authorize gasoline and diesel expenditures.
May I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Signori. May I have a second? Second by Mr. Guidarelli. Any discussion? Ms. Marco, move for the question.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomas Owens. 4 yes, 1 absent.
Next resolution.
A resolution authorizing RFP for police uniforms and equipment.
May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Guidarelli. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Signori. Anything on the question? Ms. Marco, call the vote.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
I get
Got ahead of
double
myself there.
I can get double paid.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Signor? Yes. And Mr. Thomas Owens absent. 4 yes, and 1 absent.
Next resolution.
A resolution authorizing a is that WIA? Is that it? WIA? Okay. Grant, thank you. Grant application that we have of the town.
May I have a motion? Moved by Ms. Miller Herrera, seconded by Mr. Guidarelli.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think Mr. Dotson, you already gave a little comment on the WIA grant. I can assure you that nothing would please us more than to get this grant. If you want to send me or one of our colleagues here a bullet point thing of what, in your experience, we need to have in place to get going on that, it's more than welcome. Okay, any comments, any other thing? And I believe seeker was done. I'll double check, but I'll let you know.
And I think we have another meeting before the application, the grant application is due, so anything else like bond council and the res over that.
Okay. Ms. Marco, call the question.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomas Owens absent. 4 yes, 1 absent.
Good, okay. Next resolution.
A resolution to accept the town board meeting minutes for the October 13th, 2021.
May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Guidarelli.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Signori. Any comments? Ms. Marco?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomas Owens absent. 4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, that concludes the resolutions. Any committee reports?
Just remind that we're still on for Veterans Day. 2:30 at Town Hall.
2:30 Town Hall, Thursday the 11th, Veterans Day celebration. It's a nice little celebration. Marine Corps League and other agencies
Every
are
year.
usually there. It's a nice event, and it's a great opportunity to thank our veterans that some are still around from World War II in Korea, and it's a good opportunity to thank them for their service.
Also, if I could add, I know from talking, or at least the email chatter that was going on, I don't know yet who the guest speaker might be. Anybody has any ideas, if you want to email me who you think you might want as a guest speaker. Typically, every year we have someone speak on behalf of the veterans. So we might be coming up short, so please, if you know anybody, not just limited to this room, but anyone who's able to, want to email us, and knows of somebody who wants to say something at the Veterans Day, reach out to me. I'll be happy to forward it on to Bob Becker, who puts together a really good show every year.
Say something, Mr. Christopher.
Certainly.
This Monday, we have a Parks Committee meeting, which is typically the first Monday of each month. It will be at Town Hall. And I would also like to encourage residents to go to the town website and sign up for the communication portal, which allows you to get all agendas and any postings that go to our town website sent to you via email and even text messaging. It also allows you to receive any alerts we may have for water main breaks or anything like that. And we also have on the town website a See Something, Say Something tab that allows residents to, rather than call a board member and tell us about a code violation, a pothole or something like that, we have those things on the website, and it's all part of signing up for that communication portal, which I believe every resident really should, because it's going to keep you in the loop of what's going on with the town.
I'd like to expand on what Councilman Girelli just said, and that's the technology piece. For those of us my age in that area, we're kind of the bologna in the sandwich, where we have some technology in our background, but nowhere near at this.
Speak for yourself.
Well, all right, you're definitely the exception to the rule.
I think.
But as much as sometimes I don't understand the technology, or I might be uncomfortable with it, I would never dismiss it. Like we're trying to get all our documentation through SharePoint. This is good technology. This is good technology that we need to continue to implement and educate ourselves, because this is the way, this is the road the world is going. So I'm hoping that the incoming administration understands that, although some people might be uncomfortable with some of this technology, and I'm one of them, I would never get in the way of dismissing the benefit of such technology. And that kind of goes along with what Councilman Girelli says about see something, say something.
What's the board communication portal, being able to sign up for that from the public standpoint has been awesome. And that pops up all the time, and there's stuff on there. I don't think that there's at times you probably wouldn't want me to read, but it's still on there.
Yeah.
My favorite ones, like the inspections for stormwater, they come up on there, and I can download them, and I can see what's happening, check progress.
Yeah.
So it's a very valuable tool for the public.
And I think the more we get up there, the more it's going to cut down on FOIL requests, and the info, we want to bring it to a point where the information is just there, and people do not have to reach out for it.
My other comment would be is this document right here, I always have to look for it. I shouldn't have to look very far. The public would expect to go on the front page of our homepage in the budget section. They don't need to, they just don't want to look for it.
Hopefully our new IT guy will allow us to do that, because we expected it to be on the top and the front page as well.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't have anything else.
Anybody else have anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn by Councilwoman Noah Ferreira. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Signori. Any comments? Ms. Marco?
I would like, Mr. Dodson, so right on the homepage, there's a tab on the bottom. It's kind of tough to see, but it is right on the homepage. But yeah, we should make it stand up here. Back to the closing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then who made the motion?
Miller Herrera make a motion, Signori seconded. It is 6:40 p.m.
Thank you.